thing is, like, I campaign like just to, like, I'm curious how, like, the personality can play out. And the thing is that it's like walking through, like, no problem. Like, it's like, you get, like, the same thing in your head. I like the fact that you have to make it even if you don't agree with everything, I like the fact that at least it's his own ideas. Oh yeah.
Welcome everyone to the People's Party of Canada Town Hall. Bonjour mes amis et compatriotes canadiens, bienvenue. My name is Luc Greatrex. I'm one of the directors and volunteers here in our regional association. Thank you again to Innocente Brewery for providing a safe place for people who are not safe in safe places. Let us begin with a land acknowledgement. This is the land of Canada. Conquered, built, and defended by many nations, including my French, British, Algonquin, and Mohawk ancestors. Its dignity, togetherness, safety, prosperity, hard-won, free and democratic institutions, and its very history are under relentless assault from nefarious foreigners, radical postmodernists, and corrupt corporate state totalitarians. It is my sacred honor and duty to identify and defeat these enemies. This I pledge to our ancestors, our country, and to future generations. Gentle ladies and gentlemen, we stand at a crossroads. Everything, it seems, is coming undone. Scandal after scandal, debacle after debacle, crisis after crisis. Reckless mass immigration is having dozens of catastrophic impacts on our social, economic, ecological, and political systems. Our military is falling apart, spiritually and physically, even as we are engaged in numerous foreign entanglements that threaten to start another world war, which may have already begun, and even as our country is increasingly a base of operations for international terrorism. Our intelligence services seem to be preoccupied with chasing Philip the Goat, plastic figurine Emperor of Diagon, instead of preventing foreign agents from entering and operating in Canada. Our Crown prosecutors seem obsessed to use lawfare to punish the convoy of business owners and churches, instead of going after pedophiles, murderers, or the untrained foreign truck drivers leaving our highways bloodied with the bodies of Canadians. Tractor-trailer accidents are up to 26,000 a year now in Canada, up 350% from 10 years ago. Illegal border jumping is skyrocketing both in and out of Canada. 22,000 in the last year, mostly Indians here on tourist visas, have crossed our guarded border into the United States, including many terrorists, straining our high-trust relationship with our southern neighbors. We have an entire new industry now of scam artists, consultants, and fake colleges that find every weakness in our broken immigration system, claiming no one is illegal on stolen land. We are the good immigrants. Many of them are bragging that they are taking over Canada, that the white race is dying. Many of them want the Union Jack taken off our provincial flag. They abandoned their third world backwards country, migrated to our superior British and French inspired political community, and yet many seem to have no respect for what made Canada, Canada. Absolutely appalling. Don't kid yourself for 1 second. We are in a desperate fight for the soul of this country. Our wildly defunct, morally hazardous financial system is being propped up with all sorts of special favors, bailouts, and clever gymnastics in Ottawa in a vain attempt to keep this lend, spend, pretend, extend bubble economy on life support, distorting prices and preventing market forces from promoting savings and the efficient allocation of resources into productive activities. In a healthy economy, prices are supposed to go generally down, not up. Many institutions have observed Canada may have the biggest housing bubble of all time. And though we are seeing some much needed deflation in this sector right now, it's not nearly enough. A residential sector that should be ancillary to the economy instead of becoming the economy itself. This is something humans have understood for thousands of years and that we have suddenly forgot in this unsustainable, bizarre mania unfolding for about the last 20 years, turning our once productive, thriving country into a giant game of Monopoly underwritten with our tax dollars. Reckless taxation, debt spending, and $700 billion in currency creation, or what the banksters have called quantitative easing, is thieving our purchasing power to fund an unprecedented federal bureaucratic expansion of over 40% in the last 9 years, plunging us into a self-serving, self-important, ineffective, wasteful, often booze-fueled maze of administrative intrigue and an inflationary doom loop depression. Global Affairs Canada, just one of a whopping 200 federal agencies, has consumed over $3.3 million of taxpayer-funded cocktails since 2019. And while good Canadians are running from pillar to post, getting berated by people who just got here because the nurses don't speak Arabic, dozens of countries are flocking around the BRICS alliance, rapidly stocking precious metals, and are gathering right now in Russia to devise a new gold-backed international trade settlement currency, a unit outside of the West that threatens to further destabilize our economy and country. And instead of this historical shift in geopolitics and other fundamental issues being top of mind, the super toxic, delusional, lunatic, woke mind virus has infected our friendships, families, schools, businesses, and halls of power. Coincidence? A mind virus that tells the good people of Canada that they should be ashamed of having low skin pigment, that they should treat anyone that doesn't look like them like helpless infantile victims of systemic oppression, even as legions of thriving non-white people here own homes, businesses, and hold office, often displacing and outcompeting the native-born population. And even as the United Nations says we are the second least racist out of 195 countries. It changes the meaning of our language itself, redefining words like hate to mean feelings, words to mean violence, and the normal and natural cultural bias to be racism to suit its agenda. It vilifies words like freedom or nationalism, which is just another word for our shared history, values, and future. It opens up an anti-white hate art exhibit in Vancouver, where white people are openly shamed and can digitally compare their facial structures to the leaders of the Third Reich. It tells us to look at each other based on our race, gender, which used to just be a polite word for our sex, sexual orientation, and by what name we call God, instead of free and democratic individual Canadian citizens in political community. Group identity politics on steroids, the politics of victimhood and resentment, is antithetical to the thrust of Western civilization and a better tomorrow. It cancels Don Cherry, Jordan Peterson, Tucker Carlson, and Dr. Byron Brittle, or anyone else guilty of wrongthink. How long before it cancels Remembrance Day? We already know many are no longer showing up for Canada Day. Festivities are being dialed back or not held in many communities at all, in Trudeau's post-national nightmare. Canadians, being 96% white in 1971, rapidly and honorably set to create the most inclusive, diverse society in the history of the world, and it seems we will never be forgiven for it. It tells our children they are in the wrong body, emotionally and physically mutilates them, often for life, instead of letting them mature through the natural cycle of poverty. It provides pornographic books and images to elementary children, while removing beloved classics like Little Women from school libraries because it was written by evil white colonizers. And in the wake of September 30th, I'm going to spend a bit on this one. It tells non-Indigenous white settlers that we are genocidal maniacs, even as the Indigenous population of Canada has grown from 160,000 in 1867 to 1.8 million today. This is the opposite of genocide. And even as it was the native tribes of Canada themselves who genocided each other in a frantic, centuries-long violent conflict to secure alliances and trade monopolies with tribes from Europe. Europeans who were 6,000 years ahead of them, Europeans who brought a written language, science and technology, stone buildings, metal tools, global trade, and human rights. It threatens to jail us if we point out that many Indigenous, from their own mouths, owe their modernization, success, and happiest years of their life to residential schools, that no bodies have been found in Kamloops. That ground penetrating radar, the soil disturbances, were just rocks, roots, and sewerage tiles from years ago. That every child has been meticulously documented. There are no forgotten children, just children there are no missing children, just children that have been forgotten from abusive families. School attendance was not enforced. Many Indigenous begged for the opening of the schools and begged to keep them open. And elders have admitted that many of the horror stories that are being passed around are completely made up. Of course, there were some bad apples that were dealt with, but it was not systemic or deliberate. The vast majority of the teachers and nuns cared for children like they were their own, many of them learning native languages. It tells us that burning down 100 Christian churches is understandable. Could you imagine if that happened to mosques? It tells Canadian children to feel guilty and ashamed of Canada. It tells public employees to get another paid holiday so they can pretend to care about Native children who died 120 years ago, from the same diseases as everyone else, flushing yet more billions of dollars we don't have down the drain when this could be used to solve problems in Indigenous communities today, or help the 1 in 4 Canadian children who go to school hungry. It tears down our beloved statues, slanders our esteemed forefathers, changes the names of streets and schools, even our passports, erases our identity and history, much like Mao Zedong's Cultural Revolution, the Khmer Rouge and Pol Pot's Year Zero, and the ISIS fanatics destroying historical treasures, even as it has been the West that has been the tip of the spear for centuries, that has fought hard to set nearly all the standards of progress for humanity, with countless glorious Canadian contributions. One of the many reasons why millions of foreigners desperately try to come here for the advanced civilization that we have created and that we seem to be losing. It allows radical Islamists who should not be here and the violent woke mob to chant death to Canada in our streets. It is clear we have been way too nice for way too long. With this accelerating recklessness, incompetence, and corruption in Ottawa and the multiple invasions of traditional areas of provincial jurisdiction, the Canadian Federation itself is in jeopardy, with renewed calls for secession from Quebec, the Western provinces, and Newfoundland. And who can blame them? My fellow Canadian citizens. Our sovereignty over our speech, our bodies, children, and country is at stake, as is our God-given right to peaceful assembly in defiance of tyranny. The so-called Online Harms Bill and the supranational globalist pandemic treaty are in the parliamentary system right now, the latter being in the Senate, threatening to usher in a new, frightening wave of unfettered, punitive dystopia and totalitarianism. There are so many more issues, and this is why we are here. We face a big struggle ahead, but there is hope. There is a leader and a party that has been a beacon for Canada since 2018. Intelligent enough to foresee all these issues and many more years before most. Courageous enough to sound the alarm. Strong enough to take the stone throwing, and determined enough to plant a firm flag in the ground, a Canadian flag, to say enough is enough is enough. A leader that stood with the convoy on the cold streets of Ottawa. A leader who was jailed for fighting for our rights. A leader and a party that will stand on guard for thee, true north, strong and free. It is my proud honor to introduce some of our distinguished candidates and the leader of the People's Party of Canada, Maxime Bernier.
So, how are you? I'm very, very happy, very pleased to be with you and with some of our candidates here in the room. We are doing a big fight, but like I always said, we know that we will be able to win that fight because we are on the right side of the history. We are fighting for the truth against lies. We are doing our best to promote our vision for this country. And we, at the People's Party, we have courageous Canadians that are with us and doing that fight all across the country. Based on 4 principles: individual freedom, personal responsibility, respect, and fairness. And These are the 4 principles, founding principles of our political party, and all our public policies are in line with these principles. So that's why when we decided to create the People's Party in 2018, 2019 was the first by-election when we had a candidate, Laura Lynn Thompson, in BC, and she was a great candidate, and she was able to have 10% of the vote. But at our first election in 2019, we had 1.6% of the vote. After that election, all the experts and my political opponents were saying that's the end of the People's Party, 1.6%. They're irrelevant. But what we did, we worked hard together to promote our ideas. Because we know when an idea is not popular, that doesn't mean that that idea is not just and true. And we know that our ideas are just and true, and they will become popular if we speak openly with passion and conviction about what we believe. And we did that between 2019 and 2021. And in 2021, we had 5% of the vote, almost triple our score from 2019. So we are growing as a movement. And the next election, maybe in 2025, in a year, we will be ready. We will have a candidate in every riding that will give the opportunity to every Canadian to be in line, to be able to vote in line with their values. And speaking about vote, I'm traveling across the country and out west and sometime in Eastern Canada, people are telling me, Maxime, I like your ideas. I've read your platform on your website. I like it. But I don't want to split the vote. I want to get rid of Trudeau. So I cannot vote for you. You are splitting the vote. That's the only fake argument that our opponent have against us. And just remember, and it's always the same coming from the Conservative Party of Canada. The last week of the election, they did that in 2019, they did that in 2021. They're all over social media, paying ads and telling, don't split the vote, don't split the vote, don't split the vote. That's their only slogan, empty slogan that they use to be sure that the real conservative free market voters won't support the People's Party of Canada. But we have an answer to that. And that's a great answer. Because all these people, when they're saying that, and you know it, and I know it, it's because they want to get rid of Trudeau. That's their main priority. The good news, when you will hear that argument, fake argument, the answer must be, actually, we are not splitting the vote, and your goal is to get rid of Trudeau. We understand that, and we want the same, we PPC supporters. But the good news is, look at the polls. Look at the focus group, all the public polls. Today, Poilievre is 20 points in advance. He will have a huge majority. That is the fact today, and that will be the fact in 1 year. So don't be scared. Poilievre will win with a majority. Everybody is saying that. To have a majority government in Canada, you need to have 5 points in advance. And Poilievre is at 20 points. He can go down to 15, 10, and 5 the next year, and he will still have that majority government. So we must tell them that. You know, there's no split the vote. Polyev will win. Look at the polls. He will. So you need us right now. Will be your insurance policy that Polyev will be honest, that Polyev will act as a real conservative. And that's why we exist, to fight for the good ideas. Polyev doesn't have the courage to speak up against mass immigration. He's pandering to everybody. I call him Pandering Pierre. Every weekend, Pandering Pierre has a new costume and he's pandering to different ethnic communities. I'm not doing that. You're white, black, or yellow. We don't mind, we don't care. We are seeing you as a Canadian and we'll do everything for you as a Canadian. So there's no split the vote. Tell them Polyev will win. You believe in the polls. Polyev will win. Now you can vote in line with your values. Now you can vote for what you believe in. And if you vote for what you believe, you'll have more chances to have what you want. So if the PPC, we almost triple our score from 2019 to 2021, if we double our score from 5% to 10, we'll have a bigger impact. And Polyev and all these establishment politicians will have to look at us and take our ideas, because what they want to be, they are doing politics just by looking at polls, and they are telling people what they want to hear today. We know that if our ideas is not that popular today, it will become more popular because we have that strong vision for a freer country. And we did that in 2019 by speaking against mass immigration. That was not popular at that time, but today it is more popular because we were right in 2019 and we are even more right today. And so I strongly believe that the next election, Pandering Pierre is saying that the next election must be a referendum on the carbon tax. No, the next election must be a referendum on the mass immigration policy, the open border policy. If you look at the polls right now, 68% of the population are saying enough is enough, like you said. Enough is enough. We must say no to mass immigration. Only 2% of Canadians are saying we want more immigrants. But do you know who is the fringe minority with unacceptable views? That's Trudeau and Pandering Pierre, because they're with that 2% of the population that want more immigrants, only 2%. They are with that fringe minority with unacceptable views. We are promoting acceptable policies right now, today, because we were successful to speak about what we believe the last 6 years. So the next election for us won't be a referendum on the carbon tax. It would be, and it must be, a referendum against the open border policies. And I must say that the good news also for the next election, you know, all these establishment politicians, Polyev and Trudeau, they didn't want me to be part of the national debates at the last election, because they didn't want to have a guy that will speak for freedoms for Canadians against the draconian measures that they did impose on us. But they created a new rule at that time. They said for Bernier and the BBC, you need to have 4% of the vote to be able to participate in the national debates. We had 5%. So I will be able to participate in the national debates. I can tell you, that will be fun. I won't have to take 3 days or a week to be ready and prepare myself for that debate. I'm doing that every day for the last 6 years. I will answer questions and I will ask questions. So that will be a great debate, but that will be fun also for our candidates. Because I don't know if you remember that, but at the last election, you had regional and local debate. But sometimes they were not inviting our candidates because they were saying, oh, Bernie is not participating in the national debate, so your candidate here in the riding won't be able to participate. So they won't be able to do that. And our candidates all across the country, they will be able to debate in their own riding. And that will help because we need more people to speak about what we believe, and we know that we have the best arguments. And speaking about best arguments, I need you. We had 840,000 people who voted for the People's Party of Canada at the last election. If each one of these voters find 10 more supporters, and actually you have a year to do that, 10 more supporters will be at 8 million votes. So we can grow very fast. And what I need from you is not to be ashamed to speak about your values. What is the goal? To have the best ideas if we keep our ideas for ourselves. You know? But if you speak to somebody and you want to help us and the People's Party, I will ask you to do 2 things. The first one, don't start the conversation like I was with Maxime Bernier yesterday with the PPC and blah, blah, blah. Why? Because we know that we are cancelled by the mainstream media. And so a lot of people don't know that we exist. We are a very young party. What is the PPC? And if they know a little bit about the PPC, because the Conservatives and Penderin Pierre were very efficient to discredit us in the election in 2019, saying that we're racist because we want to have a discussion about immigration. So don't start the conversation by speaking about the PPC. Start the conversation with a question. What do you think about what is happening in our country right now with immigration? And so that person would say, oh my God, we have a lot of people coming here, we are not able to integrate them. I don't know what will be their answer. But 69% of the population agree with us. So what is our strength is our ideas. And start with the ideas, start with the policy. What do you think? And ask the question. What do you think about, these establishment politicians are saying that there's more than 2 sexes? That a young girl can become a young boy, that they can have a transition. What do you think about that? That person will tell you it's crazy. And after that, there's only one political party at the federal level that is fighting for that. That is the PPC. What's that, the PPC? That's the People's Party of Canada. If you want to know more, go on their website, peoplespartyofcanada.ca, and click to platform, and you'll be able to read their platform. And contrary to all these establishment political parties, they're not changing their platform at every election. It's always the same platform. What I said in 2019, and our candidates said the same thing in 2021, and they will do the same thing in 2025. So start the conversation by asking questions about what is happening in our country, about ideas. And that people will be more open and you'll be able to inform or educate that people about us. That's the best way to have more supporters. And it's working. And it's working. And also, if they ask you about the split the vote, tell them the truth. I won't be prime minister after the next election. I know that. You cannot do in revolution in 1 or 2 elections. I'm there, and our candidates are there for the long term. So tell them, look, Polyev will win. So you're going to get rid of Trudeau. Now you can vote in line with your ideas. Tell them that. And actually, I tested that in BC. I said that in a crowd like that in BC. And a young couple came to me after my speech, and they said, Maxime, we are 2 fans of Pierre Polyev, and we came here because we were curious. We wanted to know more about the People's Party. But you know what? After your speech, you're right. There's no split the vote. And if I want my ideas to win, I need to vote in line with my ideas. And everything that you said today, I agree with that. So tonight, Maxime, you have 2 new voters. And so if you do that, we'll have more people on our side and we'll go faster. So, and that's why we're doing that town hall today, because I don't want to speak for half an hour. I want to be able to answer your questions, and like that you'll be able to speak a little bit more about our ideas with more details. But that's the People's Party. We are doing politics differently, because we know that our ideas will win, and when they will win, we will win. And I will finish with an example. What is happening right now in Europe with all these populist political parties? They're winning because of one important public policy: immigration. The mass immigration is everywhere, in France, in UK, in all these Western European countries. And also because of the failed of the multiculturalism policy. And that's why these populist parties are able to grow. But they can grow faster than us because they have a different electoral system. There's more proportionality. For example, we had 5% of the vote at the last election, but we didn't have 5% of the members of parliament. There's no proportionality in our electoral system. That's a little bit more difficult for us to have somebody elected. But in UK, with Nigel and the new Reform Party, that is the new populist party in UK, and if you read the platform of the Reform Party, you can go on the internet, Reform Party of UK, it's like our platform. It's almost the same. And so they had, at the last general election in UK, the Reform Party had 14% of the votes, and they were able to elect 5 candidates. So if we double our score at the next election from 5 to 10, we may have our first candidate elected. Maybe yes, maybe no. But if we don't, our ideas are growing. And you know what is very important in politics is credibility. And each time we are gaining credibility because we are saying the same thing and we don't change because of the win. We don't do any survey or polling. We are like that. And so the election after 2025 will be the election in 2029. And Polyev will have a majority government, and Polyev won't have any excuses, but I believe that a lot of people will be disappointed. And actually, the first one will be Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson said in a podcast a couple of months ago that he supports pandering Pierre, and he said that Pierre will win. I just told you the same. But he said also a third thing. He said that the Polyev government will be a disaster. And he's right about that. Because he will do everything to be re-elected and to have another majority. And so all these conservative voters who will vote maybe for Polyev at the next election, they will look at us in 2029 and say, you know, these guys and people, they're saying the same thing for the last 8 years. They must believe in that, and Polyev did not deliver. So we are there for the long term. I hope that we'll have our first candidate or couple of candidates elected at the next election. But if not, you can count on me to do that battle until we win the battle of ideas, and we will. So that being said, let's start the Q&A. Yeah, let's start the Q&A. If you have a question, be short, ask your question, and I try to do the same. My answer, I'll try to be very short, like that we can have more questions. So, do we have a mic for? Okay, so I will repeat the question if, go ahead.
Yes, so I voted you for the first time in 2019 and 2021, and I'm going to vote for you again this year. My question is, why aren't you working with Polyev to keep him in line? Because if you don't have any seats and you're not working with him, he can just do whatever he wants.
Okay, the question is why I'm not working with Polyev, why we are not maybe merging with Polyev as a political party. Because like I said, after the leadership contest in 2017, 2018, I resigned from the Conservative Party of Canada, and I said at that time, this party is morally and intellectually corrupt. Why? Because they don't promote conservative values. They're promoting ideas based on survey and focus group. So your answer, I tried to change the party from the inside. You know, I didn't win the leadership with 49% of the vote. And yes, and so I worked with Andrew Scheer, the leader at that time, for 15 months. And after 15 months, in 2018, a couple of months before the 2019 election, I had a private meeting with Andrew Scheer. And I asked him, Andrew, you know, can you take some of my ideas for the next electoral campaign, for the next platform for the Conservative Party of Canada? Because my ideas were very popular with conservatives. You know, I had 49% of the vote. And I must admit that Andrew Scheer was very honest. And he said, Maxime, yes, your ideas were very popular with the membership of the Conservative Party of Canada. But now I'm running to be the Prime Minister of Canada, and we did a lot of pollings, and your ideas are not popular with the general population. So we won't take any of your ideas for our next electoral platform. And that's why I said this party is intellectually morally corrupt. They won't speak about real conservative values and ideas when they are not popular. So you cannot trust them. And the second thing, that the Conservative Party spent $160,000 to discredit us and the PPC at the election in 2019, paying groups and saying that we were racist. So you cannot trust that party. I don't trust that party. And the best way is to fight from the outside, to push him for the outside, because the more popular our ideas will be, that will push him to, if he wants to stay in power, to change some policies. And so we need to do that battle of ideas from the outside. And if Polyev is coming on our side, that would be great. But on immigration and, you know, on the carbon, on the climate change, on the most important issues, I don't believe that he will be on our side. We need to push him, and we need to send a strong signal to these establishment politicians. So, answering short, no merger, no agreement with him. We are there to do that big fight without any compromise with our ideas.
Andrew Scheer is not Polyev. Have you at least tried talking with him to see if he would be open to the idea of it?
I know Polyev really well. I was sitting with him in Parliament. And so I don't have to beg him to have a discussion. I don't want to be in discussion with him. He's doing his thing, and he's also lying about us. What the Conservative Party did, they want to crush us. They don't want us to exist. They don't like to have a real Conservative Party that is pushing them. They don't want that. They don't want us. They're doing everything to destroy us. So there's no upside for Poilievre to be with us. His goal is to be sure that we won't exist at the next election. That's what he did in 2019. That's what he's doing right now. They are discrediting us, but they don't want to have a debate about our ideas. Everything that Poilievre is doing against us, it's about things that I said when I was a conservative 15 years ago. They cannot have a debate about our platform because Poilievre knows that our platform is very popular with conservative voters. So he tried to discredit us.
Well, my worry is that if we don't start working with him, because he is not like O'Toole and he's not like Scheer, he is a net positive in a conservative mindset. If we don't, he may be, but
that's what you think.
But if we don't
know. Okay, we don't know him.
I don't want our ideas to fade out because we're going to get
we don't.
What we did last time.
What we know, Poilievre is doing politics by survey and focus group and with empty slogan. What we know, he said, fix the budget. What is that? For me, fix the budget is to balance the budget in 1 year, having a balanced budget and lower taxes. For him, fix the budget must be to have deficit for the next 4 years or 3 years. And he's always speaking about common sense. Do you know why he's speaking about common sense? And everything is common sense. I'll tell you why. I know them. They did focus group. And they know that speaking about common sense is very popular. Why? And it's popular and it is not dangerous for them. There's no risk. Why? Because if I'm speaking with you and saying, I have a common sense immigration policy. And if you're a leftist and you want more immigrants, that's your common sense. And so you agree with him. And if you're Maxime Bernier and you want no more immigrants and a moratorium, that's my common sense immigration policy. So speaking about common sense, it can be everything to everybody. And the same thing, fix the budget. What is the other one? Axe the tax. Axe the tax. It's another empty slogan. The real problem is the Paris Accord. We want to withdraw from the Paris Accord. Poilievre won't speak about that. Poilievre is in line with the Paris Accord. It will impose more regulations on businesses and give subsidies to the green industry. What is the other slogan?
Stop the crime.
Stop the crime. Stop the crime. Give us more details. What are you going to do with all these criminals that are coming from mass immigration? You're going to deport them? No, he's not speaking about deportation. What he's saying about, the fake students, he said that they must have the right to stay here after, their diploma. I had a conversation with a fake Indian student in PI, and I told him in his face, after your degree, when you have your diploma, get out. You came here to study. That's it. But Poilievre said to them, they must have permanent residency. Can you believe that these fake students are coming here because they want to be Canadians and they use that door to be able to be in Canada? And when they're here, they're asking to work. When I was studying, Why? And we are giving them a work permit at the same time that they're supposed to study. And after they said, we want to stay, we won't leave. And they don't respect our legislation because the law is, if you come here as a student, after that you go back to your country like we always did. But no, they want to stay, so they don't respect our legislation. They are cheating and pandering. Pierre and Trudeau are saying, we're going to give you the permanent residency. So we cannot trust. It's all about slogan. That's why I'm waiting, and I will be very happy when I'll be on the stage against Poilievre. and to ask him these questions, to know who is the real Pierre Poilievre, because he is a good communicator for sure. But do you know that Poilievre is not doing a lot of interviews with mainstream media or podcasts like, you know, Harris in the US? She just started to do some interviews over there. But Poilievre is not, because the journalists were, okay, ask the tax. What do you mean? Fix the budget. What is that?
Build the homes.
Build the homes. You know, that's not the problem. We don't have an housing crisis. We have an immigration crisis. So he doesn't want to tell us what are his policies, and you'll be very disappointed after the election. I can, like Jordan Peterson told us. And actually, I want to finish with that. I was a conservative. I was with Harper, a real conservative. I worked in the private sector for 19 years. I'm not a career politician like Pendering Pierre. Pierre didn't have a real job. The first job was when he was elected in Parliament at 24 years old, and now he's 40-something, 44. No real boss, no real job. He's a career politician. I worked 19 years in the private sector, in the financial sector. I decided to jump into politics when Harper asked me, because I wanted to have a smaller government and more freedom in 2006. So, 2006, Harper had a minority government. 2008, another minority government. 2011, a majority national conservative government. So I said to myself, we'll be a real conservative government. We'll do bold reforms. But no, Harper did nothing, yet nothing. What is the legacy of Stephen Harper? Nothing. We were not a conservative government. Why? Because Harper was looking at the polls and he wanted to be re-elected with a majority. So Poilievre will do the same. We'll look at the polls and we'll manage in the center left to be sure to have a majority back. So we cannot compromise with our ideas, and that's why we know we are the People's Party, fighting for, in line with our conviction for our ideas, for our country, for Canadians, and for the sovereignty of this country. Okay on that. Last one, another one.
And that was your short answer.
Yeah, sorry.
Courage inspires courage. I left Conservative Party member, donor, voter for PPC because I see courage in you. You pay the price for Canadians. Keep fighting the good fight. Truth always wins in the end. Never quickly, but in the end.
Thank you. I will. Yes.
Is there something in the platform for taking control of the central bank?
Yeah, central bank, yes, we have something. Go on our website, People's Party of Canada.ca, click on platform, our position on central bank. Now we have inflation because of our central bank that is printing money out of thin air. And we need to stop that. And actually the central bank has an inflation target of 2%. So the governor of the bank wants to have 2% inflation every year. But I can tell you, 2% inflation is very bad, 20% inflation is very bad. We must have 0% inflation because we're going to keep our purchasing power. When we have inflation, our purchasing power is going down, our standard of living is going down, and with the same dollar in our pocket, we cannot buy the same amount of goods and services with that. That's inflation. So what we have, we're going to tell the Bank of Canada to have a zero inflation target, and like that, everybody will keep their purchasing power. But to be able to do that, we need also to balance the budget. No more deficit, and we'll do it.
So I've been traveling around to a few different political party speeches similar to this one. How do we, the people in this room, obviously support you? How do we get more people here? How do we get more flags outside? What's the best way for supporters of your party to help increase the party size?
Be active. Be part of the change. Be the change. Be active on social media, yes. Be active in the real life also. Don't be scared to speak about what you think. don't be scared, be polite. You know, perseverant, polite, ask questions about what is happening, and after that, tell the story about the People's Party. So just be active, be out there, help us to grow the party. There's no secret.
Yes, just going from looking for my friends here, is that they are amazing. They are amazing people here.
Yes, you are amazing, you're right.
Just to address your question, sir, we are always looking for volunteers in the regional association here. We do have a few more ridings that are open, both in the region and Halton Hills and Wellington. We're always looking for donations. We're always looking for more people to help plan more events, to walk, canvass the neighborhoods, getting signatures for our candidates, to spread our good information around to the community. So we can talk about how you can get involved at the end.
Great. Okay, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask, what do you plan to do in terms of monetary policy to change it? I appreciate your initial comments, but I want to see a bigger picture on how you plan to change our monetary policy to maybe be better than it's been since 1970s.
Yeah, the question is about the monetary policy. The federal government can have a say in monetary policy. Every 5 years, the federal government is having an agreement with the Bank of Canada, because the Bank of Canada is supposed to be an independent from the government. But every 5 years, you can tell the bank what to do. So monetary policy, what is happening right now, the Bank of Canada does not have any gold reserve. And all these other national central banks in in other countries, not in Western countries, but in other countries, they are buying golds, and as you can see, the price of the gold is going up. And so the first thing that we must do, we must have that 0% inflation target. We must also tell the Bank of Canada to buy gold and sell their reserve in US dollars. That would be important, because what is happening right now today, there's a meeting in Russia, the BRICS countries, and they want to de-dollarize, so they want to get rid of the US dollar as the international monetary currency for international transactions. And they want to be independent, because as you know, the US used the US dollar, weaponized the US dollars against Russia and other countries in Africa. And I understand them, they don't want that. So they try to find an alternative to the US dollar, and they're working on that right now in Russia today. And when that will happen, that will be very difficult for the US to have this huge deficit. Because if you do a deficit, you must have people that will buy your treasuries, that will buy your bonds to finance your deficit. But if other countries are not buying your treasuries or your bonds and not financing your deficit, you have inflation in your country. So what I'm telling you right now, there's a big change that is happening at the international level on monetary policies because of the BRIC countries. So Canada is not ready right now. So to be ready to face that, we need to have a 0 inflation target. We need our banks to buy golds and sell their US treasuries. We need to balance the budget, and that will help us as a country to pass through that transition. Yes.
I'd like to know more about your foreign interference policy. There's a lot of discussion about that in Parliament, and I just want to know what your views are on it, because I think that Canada has a lot of foreign interference, but not from the usual characters. So I was just wondering what your policy was on foreign interference in, like, our sovereignty.
Yeah. Actually, the policy is to fight for Canada, the sovereignty of our country. We are saying no to all these international organizations like the World Health Organization, the UN, and all these organizations. the World Economic Forum that try to impose their ideas on Canada. We won't participate in that. We are a sovereign country. But also your question is about, we have right now in Parliament, in the Liberal Party of Canada and in the Conservative Party of Canada, some members of Parliament that are elected, and they are not loyal to our country. And the CSIS and the RCMP said that publicly. But you know what? Penderin Pierre doesn't want to know who are these MPs who are not loyal to our country. He doesn't want to know, because he doesn't want to deal with that. So for us, as a political party, we have great candidates, and we're doing interviews and background check on our candidates. And the first question is, you must be loyal to Canadians, to the sovereignty of our country, but also to our platform. When you'll be elected, your first role will be to implement our platform. And in our party, we don't have anybody that is not loyal to our country. But you have that in Parliament, in the Liberal Party and Conservative Party. So what we must do, we must put pressure on Poilievre and Trudeau to tell us who are these people. That must be a condition. If you want to be a member of Parliament, you must be loyal to the party. But that's up to the country, sorry. That's happening right now because of the Multiculturalism Act, because we are promoting multiculturalism, and we have some foreigners that are coming here and they're becoming Canadians, and after that, you know, their loyalty is there with their country of origin and not with our country.
Would you ever consider having that your members of parliament are only have one citizenship, not as dual or three citizenships?
Yes.
Because the problem is that there's dual citizenships and they're voting on policies that are foreign policies, and they're a citizen of another country.
Yeah.
Like, that's outrageous.
That's a good idea. We don't have that in our policy, but I'm not against that, yes. And actually right now we have 160 candidates selected and approved, ready if we have an election tomorrow. We'll have a full slate of candidates, but maybe that can be a condition to be a candidate for the People's Party of Canada. I like that idea. So I'll take that question. Yeah, come on.
Yes, with all the stuff that's going on, I've watched a lot of this convention stuff that they're just grandstanding in. And broke the drug crisis now with Kathleen Bennett being the drug dealer for Canada and getting this $250 million contract to go to Holland and be there, whatever she is there. I was wondering how these people like Trudeau, who represents WEF, and he signed allegiance to Canada. Christine Freeland, she signs allegiance to Ukraine, WEF, and Canada. How can these people do this stuff? There's murder around them everywhere, and they're not held accountable. So what would you do to put these people, after they found that they've embezzled money in the hundreds of millions of dollars, they've murdered people through the MAID program. Those people should be held criminally responsible. I had a brother-in-law that didn't tell my sister until she walked in the room. He's getting killed today. And then I read about it. The drug they're giving them is illegal in France. It's in Texas. They won't give it to the inmates anymore until they sleep, because the first one paralyzes you, and the second needle they give you fills your lungs full of water, and you drown within 24 hours. Now I want everyone to do it. So what are you going to do to change that and hold these people accountable for murder?
So what we'll do, we'll ask for a royal commission of everything that happened the last 3 years in our country. Everything that they did, they must come in from Parliament, in us, and we're going to ask questions, and the RCMP will be there, and if they have enough proof to sue them criminally, we're gonna do that. But actually, as you know, the police and politicians must be separate, and it is separate in our country, but with Trudeau it is not. But that's why we need to have a parliamentary commission that will do a big investigation of everything that happened, then all that would be public, so the RCMP would be able to look at it and do their job. So maybe I will ask our candidates to come and to present themselves, our candidates from the region. So just come here in front.
Yeah, where you're from.
Yeah, which riding, where you're from, what they can do to help you. Yeah, because we almost have all our candidates in your region right now. Just riding, who you are.
Hi everybody, my name is Randall Williams and I am the candidate for Kitchener South Hespeler, and some of you know me. Glad to see you. I just have one thing to say. We're losing our soul, as Luke stated here. We're losing the soul of our country. We were raised as Christians. This country was founded on Christian principles, and we're losing that. We're losing our moral ethics. Every single day we're seeing this. And we need to start standing up and saying, no, we're not going to accept this anymore. That's my push for everybody here, to say no. Thank you so much. And I'm the candidate for Kitchener South Hespeler. If anybody that lives in that area, please. Yes, if you want to be in touch, it's very simple. It's randywilliamsppc.ca. That'll direct you to my website. There's a link there for, if you want to be a volunteer or you want to sign up as a member. That's all there, and it has all our policy and information on it too.
So wonderful. I am not going to www.something. I'm more of a person.
Okay, so you live in my area of Kitchener South Hespeler? Okay. Well, yes, it does in the sense that we're looking for volunteers. You can be in any riding, but Kitchener Center, we have he's a member of Kitchener Center. Okay, so he's going to be up here next. If you want to talk to him, I'm sure he would love to talk to you and get some information from there. Anybody else have any questions? Go ahead.
One thing I'd like to be able to do is to send you some information if I have it. Is there a way of doing that?
Yes, my email is just rw4ppc@gmail.com, and you can send me a message there. I can give you, I didn't bring my cards, but I didn't know I was going to come up here and give a speech, but radiowinds.ca, ppc.ca, that's the best way to get on the website, and rw4, the number 4, ppc@gmail.com. You can send me an email there. Thank you so much, everybody. Oh, and one final thought, thanks to Innocente for hosting this event. It was very, they do a lot of work. Thank you so much.
And he was there also during the COVID hysteria. I remember to be here and having a nice chat with real people during that lockdown craziness.
This is our candidate for Kitchener Center.
It is a big honor that I'm standing in front of you as a candidate of PPC. My name is Wasi Rahimi. I came to Kitchener 22 years ago. When I came to this country, it was really a safe place for myself and for my family. The person who was in the prison of Al-Qaeda and Canada at that time gave me a great protection, and I am proud of being a Canadian. When I came to this country, there was a great country. Canada was a safe country. It was a country that we recommended to the people of the world, if you really want a good life, this is the country you need to be in. But that great country that went toward the frustrations. One thing it kind of makes me really surprised when Canadians are trying to vote Conservative Party. If we go a little bit back and see who brought Trudeau to the government, the frustration that Stephen Harper government brought to this country, that caused everyone just run to the poll to get rid of that guy and bring a corrupt person to the government of Canada. And now thousands of Canadians are right on the street under the tent. They don't have even a roof on their head. My question is that why we are bringing back another Stephen Harper to make the same frustration again? And should we go back and bring another Trudeau back to this government, just switch them and they just lead the country toward the ditch, toward the hell? So why I joined PPC as a leader of Southwestern Ontario for the 1 million march, I stood for the rights of parents of this country. Parents need to be the first decision maker for their families, for their children, not Trudeau or the education board or the teachers. I am an immigrant myself, but I am against massive immigration. The immigration that Trudeau brings people and throw them there in the hotels and the restaurant, and they are bill paid by the immigration, by the taxpayer of this country. Each family they bring about 4, 5, 6 families. They throw them in the hotel and they pay the bill for them. But those families are happy to be in there? No. I came from Afghanistan. I am the president of Afghan Association for this region, and I'm very involved in the immigration and with these families that Trudeau's government bring and throw them in the hotels. There are days and nights I was looking around all the region till midnight to find a single room for a family to house them, but we were not able to find any. Those they claim that they brought 40,000 families who were under threat under the government of Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan. Is that true? And Trudeau goes and takes selfies in the airport with them. We brought this immigration, we saved them from the war. This is all false. As a president of these people, I say that is all false. Those people they brought from under the name of Afghan refugees. They were people that they left Afghanistan many years before this conflict in Afghanistan. They bring them here. Many of these families are very wealthy families who came here and they right away they bought houses that they cost $3-4 million. I'm living in this city for the past 22 years. I cannot. I work 7 days a week, but still I cannot afford to rent a 3-bedroom home. How these people who come yesterday they can buy $5 million a house? That is the immigration policy of Trudeau that bring these people for this country. So to make it short, I'm the two main reasons that I'm supporting PPC as the massive immigration policy that this government bring all this frustration to Canadians. And the second is education. Of course, there is lots of corruption that makes this happen to our country. Hopefully, we stand together and we need your help to join us. We fight against all these corruptions and to bring a person who really dream well for this country and who is Max. I hope one day we have a government that this guy is leading them. Thank you.
Thank you, Wasay Rahimi, Kitchener Centre, a brave, real Canadian stepping up for our country. We have one more candidate in the room. I'll also speak briefly about Kevin Dupuis. He's setting up for the Shania Twain experience in St. Clements for tonight, 7 p.m. He's our Kitchener-Conestoga candidate. You can go meet him tonight. I think it's around $50 at the door. The concert starts at 7. Max will be there tonight. You can talk to me for more details, and I'll pass it along to Doug here.
Hi, my name's Doug Ross. I'm the People's candidate for the Waterloo. I must say I'm very pleased to be here today. It's nice to read everything on the party platform, but to hear your enthusiasm, hear your spirit, hear your power. And to hear your enthusiasm, your spirit, and your power. And that's the first time I've heard you say, I will be the Prime Minister. I'm in Waterloo. I'm an ordinary worker. I work at nights, so I'm taking time out of my day to do this. I'm on the ground. I got good news for you. I am out talking to people. I'm not just talking to the party faithful. I'm talking to everybody. And what I'm hearing is encouraging. I'm hearing people all over the place. Number one, because of the cancel culture, they don't know about us. But if I listen to them, I start pointing out to them that they're saying the same thing we're saying. They go to our platform and they come back and they're talking to me about it. So your advice is superb. The other interesting thing I'm hearing is I don't get the chance to talk to the Conservatives. They don't want to talk to me. They're my enemy. I'm surprised. But I am talking to the Liberals and I am hearing incredible things. They're lonely. They're isolated. And they're hopeless, and they don't know what to do. And that's why I start talking to them about where we are, where we're going, and that we are the party of the future. As Max said, I want to be on the side of history, and I believe I am.
No, it's interesting. A third of our party membership actually comes from the Green and NDP party. And I have to admit, I was Green for nearly 20 years. I remember when people against mass immigration were on the left, the unions, the environmental groups, back in the 80s. I remember it was lefties that were against a lot of the globalist treaties. I was in Seattle in 1999 protesting the New World Order with a lot of lefties. I remember when lefties would talk about real market principles. A lot of lefties used to be anti-war, pro-free speech. What happened? Now most of them, unfortunately, and this is why I had to leave, are in a trance. They're brainwashed pylons. This is why so many rational lefties have come to the rational people on the right. Tulsi Gabbard, RFK Jr., Jimmy Dore, Russell Brand. All these progressive types are joining the good people on the right, and this is where we have to be right now. To defend, we have to fight for the Enlightenment all over again. So I'm going to open up the floor. I know more people are anxious to talk to Max, so we'll have some questions again.
Yeah, the bill C-293, it is in the Senate right now, and today they voted in second reading. So for the bill to be enforced, they need to have a third reading that may come this week or later. What is that bill? That bill is taking all the logic and the philosophy from the World Health Organization. And that's a way for the federal government to implement and to ask civil servants to prepare a pandemic plan for the next pandemic. We don't need that. We don't need that bill. And you can tell you that our position, we're going to fight that. Right now, that bill is not enforced. We don't know what can happen. But if it's enforced, we must repeal that, because we don't need other countries and other international organizations to tell us what to do for healthcare. It is a provincial Canadian jurisdiction, and let's keep our sovereignty and fight for our sovereignty, and fighting for our sovereignty is ending that bill. Another one? Yes?
I have a question. For me, a really big person issue for me is drag. Like men dressing up as women, cross-dressing and all that. Like, you know, showing up in front of kids, reading my, like, even some of my relatives, like my aunt who lives in like America, actually, she worked in a library, and she told me how all these drag queens were dressing up very inappropriately in front of children. I believe there's even some evidence that drag has historical links to like blackface minstrelsy. So what I want to know is, like, are you guys gonna like make drag like legal in schools or something like that?
Yeah, it's happening right now. You're right. We're the only party that is speaking against that, and I tweeted about that. I said that, you know, these drag queens, I'm 61 years old, and in Montreal, they were in bars at 8 o'clock at night.
Adult entertainment.
Yeah, that's it. They were not in schools. And now it's an indoctrination. Yes, they must not have the right to be there. But why they are there? Because, don't forget, education is under the provincial government. So I'm running at the federal level, but we can do something, because the Trudeau government is giving a lot of money and subsidies to different organizations that are promoting that. So cut the funding and it will end. Just before that, last time, I had a question about the US election. And I just want to tell you what I told them at that time. So, you know, I hope that Trump will win. But I must say, the impact here in Canada will be good and can be bad. So I will go with on the good side. The good side,
10% tax.
if Trump is winning in the US, what will be the impact here in Canada? First, because of Trump and Robert F. Kennedy Jr., they are fighting censorship. They are fighting for free speech. And censorship is because of Twitter, not Twitter anymore, Facebook and Google and all that. And we cannot do as a country. The US can pass a legislation and can solve that. And if they do that, we'll have more free speech here in Canada. That will help us. The other thing is, you know, the war in Ukraine. I said that we are for peace and prosperity. Why giving $14 billion to Ukraine when we don't have that money? Like Benjamin Pierre is saying, bring it home. Yes, bring home that money back here, $14 billion. If Trump is elected, he will end the war in Ukraine. That will be it. So that will be a good impact. What would be the other good impact? These mainstream journalists who don't want to speak about us and about our ideas. The President of the United States, you know, is speaking a little bit like us on different issues. They will have to speak about the radical gender ideology, because Trump will do something about that. That will help us to promote our ideas, because the mainstream media will have to cover what Trump is doing in the US. and our ideas will grow faster, and our popularity as party will grow faster also. They will have to cover what Trump is doing in the US. The risk for us, it's about immigration. Trump is speaking about ending illegal immigrants, foreigners coming to the US, finishing the wall, and deportation of all these illegals. I agree with that. But if you are an illegal immigrant in the US and Trump is elected, and you know that Trump is crazy enough to deport you, and you don't want to be deported, you may walk to the north because Trudeau is there, and you may go to Canada. We may have millions of illegals crossing our borders. So we need to know that and fight that and being sure that it won't happen. But it is a risk. We need to tell our fellow Canadians that we need to have a moratorium on immigration. We need to have real borders, because that can be a big risk. These people can just walk north and try to cross our borders. So we need to tell that to our fellow Canadians. I don't want that to happen. I want them to be deported in their country of origin. Yes.
I think you should have a meeting with JFK.
Yes.
Not Trump.
I should have a meeting with both of them.
Yeah.
But actually, we'll see what will happen. And, you know, I hope if they don't cheat in the US, if the Democrat is not cheating during that election, Trump may win, and we'll see. But that will be very interesting to watch. I hope for our country, for the US, for our civilization, it is important to have that big change in the US. Yes.
We know that Martin from True North wrote the book for Polyad. We know that Ezra Levant is the first friend of Polyad. So how do you think we're going to fare with True North and Rebel when they won't give honest coverage? I think we're going to end up with Rebel North. We're going to merge and take over for CBC. So what do you think of this?
Yeah. So you're right about. I said that we've been cancelled by the mainstream media and by the independent media like True North or Ezra. Actually, they don't want to give us credit about immigration and things like that. And True North, yes, they are supporting Polyev. Ezra also, but about Ezra, you know, at least every 6 months, I'm able to have an interview with Ezra, because Ezra is a good business guy also. And he knows that a lot of his viewers are like the BBC. So he's giving me a chance to speak to them every 6 months. But for True North, they don't cover us. It's very difficult. So that's why our growth will come from you, from me, traveling across the country for our candidates. And that's a real grassroots movement. And I want these media to be independent. I don't want, and you know, I said a long time ago that we must defend the CBC and Radio-Canada. But the funniest thing about that, Polyev knew that it was popular when I was speaking about that. So he put that in his platform for the leadership, when he was trying to be the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, defend the CBC. But also, he did a couple of polls and focus group in Quebec, and he knew that Radio-Canada in French is very popular in Quebec. So he was just saying, defend the CBC, the English CBC, but not Radio-Canada. Me, you know, it was not popular when I started that 5 years ago, defend the CBC and Radio-Canada. But I was right at that time, and we must do the same thing for Radio-Canada in French, knowing that it's not popular. If you do politics by conviction, you'll do what is the best for the country. But But Polyev on that is speaking only about defunding the CBC and not the French part, Radio-Canada. So we want to have independent media, and if True North or Ezra are not giving us visibility, I won't force them. I won't force them, and I try to go around it. And actually, I'm doing the same strategy than Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was with Joe Rogan and all these big YouTubers. I saw him over there a couple of months ago. But I saw also Robert F. Kennedy Jr. with a YouTuber who had only 1,000 followers. So his strategy is to be he accept all these invitations on YouTube, social media, and I'm doing the same. If you're a YouTuber in a small town and you have 200 people that is following you, it is giving me an opportunity to speak to 200 people. So I'm doing the same strategy on social media that the one that Robert Jr. did. Yes.
Just a quick note about True North. Harrison Faulkner, who runs the popular ratioed segment, has mentioned Max and the PPC at least once. He also had a deep green environmentalist on a few months ago. And like many environmentalists, including myself, the PPC is the greenest party. Population times consumption equals environmental impact. Who's talking about reasonable population growth? Our party. Who's talking about a stable monetary system to regulate consumption in a productive, sustainable way? It's the PPC party. So a lot of Greens have come to our party for those two things.
But Harrison didn't want to run as a conservative.
Andrew did it.
He tried to run as a conservative.
Andrew Lawton did it. Actually, he will be a candidate. Yeah. But you're right, speaking about green, and actually I have an anecdote about that. I was in BC, and as you know, we have a process for our candidates. I'm not the one who's choosing the candidate. We have a process that's the executive director. So I was over there in BC, and they told me, Maxime, you're going to meet our candidates over there. I said, perfect. So two young guys, about 25 and 30 years old, and they said, Maxime, we just been approved, and we are your candidate here. I said, great. So, and I said, can you tell me a little bit more about you? He said, okay. Oh yes, at the last election I was with Elizabeth May, and I was, supporting her, and I was a big volunteer for her. I said, oh my God, okay, you're coming from the Green Party. I said, did you read the platform? They said, yes, we've read the platform. And I said, why are you with us? And they said, all that fight for the environment, having a greener environment, a more sustainable environment, you cannot have that if you are a poor country. You need to promote economic development. When people will have more money, they will buy a green car, they will buy solar panels, they will do that if they have more money. So it must start by the economy, and after that, we will take care of the environment, and that's great. That's why in Western countries we are taking care of the environment, because it's costly to do that. You need to have money to do it. So they are with us because of that, and they said the same thing about the population. More population, it's more pollution. So if you stop mass immigration, that will help the environment also. So we have candidates coming from the Green, coming from the Bloc Québécois in Quebec. I spoke with some independentists in the Bloc Québécois, and he said, Maxime, with your policies about radical decentralization, more autonomy to provinces, and for that, I want a strong Quebec. Like in Alberta, they want a strong Alberta, they want more autonomy, and that's our position. So our platform, I believe, we can attract a lot of people, and we can attract people who don't vote. They don't vote because they look at these establishment politicians and they're saying it's the same, they're all corrupt, they are corrupt, so we are different. We can show that. We are saying the same thing, and we don't try to pander to any groups, so we can attract them and tell, come and vote in line, and you can have a change if you vote for us. we can have that big change in this country. Yes? Yeah, the question about that. We have a treaty, chemtrail. We have a treaty in Canada with the US about that, and they're saying that it's to manage weather. And something is happening. I don't know what is happening. I want to know more. So what we must do, we have parliamentary commission. We have members of parliament that are able to say on that subject, I want a debate. I want all the civil servants in charge of that to come and tell us publicly what is happening. I want the expert. So we want to open the windows about it and ask all these questions. What is happening? What are you doing? Why are you doing it? And I know that they're doing something. I've read the treaty. They said, oh, it's only for weather control. What's that, weather control? I want to have more information, so what we will do, we'll have a parliamentary commission only on that. We'll bring everybody, we'll have a discussion, we'll know what is happening, and if it's hurting us, we'll stop that.
Just one thought. You watch Pierre, he dropped his hairdo, dropped his glasses, dropped the pole, get popular. You are the same as you've always been. You're just born good looking. That's but we're waiting for Pierre to go to the LGBT where he drops his pants.
He will have a new costume for them. Maybe that would be no costume. Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah, before after you, yeah.
Okay. So this really isn't a question. I guess maybe I wanted you to comment on this. But it's one thing just from watching politics that I've learned, and that is never underestimate a right of center party to blow an election. Right? I mean, your press is not in your favor, the bureaucrats are not in your favor, your institutions are not in your favor, education is not in your favor. One wrong sentence from one of your, it was 160 candidates, or anything like that, and that's a magnet. And that one sentence will travel the world before the truth can get out and get out of bed and stretch its legs, right? So how do we prevent that from happening? Because we can't trust any of this stuff.
So I cannot. So the question is, you may have a candidate that is good and maybe crazy for 30 seconds, and all that will be over the news, and that will discredit you and the party. What can you do for that? Nothing. And I'm taking the risk. I'm taking the risk. We are doing good interviews. We have good candidates, and I know that they will do mistakes. I did a lot of mistakes in politics. You can count on me. They will do that. But we are in 2024. People now look Trump what he's doing. Something big mistake taking. But we are in 2024. People don't believe the mainstream media like they were 20 years ago, or 15 years ago, or 5 years ago. The mainstream media is discredited. They are discredited themselves. So I don't want to control my candidates. What I'm telling our candidates, read the platform, promote the platform, that's your job, and you must pick 5 priorities in the platform. We have 21 policies. You cannot speak about 21 policies in a short electoral campaign. Find 4 or 5 policies that you like, that is in line with your writing, and speak about it. The only condition is you must speak about immigration. Immigration will be our main focus of the next election. We're going to spend money, we're going to spend the little money that we have to promote our policy, that is, the moratorium on immigration. So yes, that's risky, and actually that happened in 2019. We had some candidates that, said it was all over the news. But it can happen. I'm taking the risk. I prefer freedom, and I'm taking the risk.
I'm not really on any social media platforms because I've been banned and you want me to apologize or something like 2 years ago. So I do use a thing called Gab, and it's not a number in the States. I was wondering if you could have a platform on that too, because I share all your stuff all over there. So I hope you don't mind. I'm going to put one up.
No, we need people like you. That's a good question. There's also, I'm on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, recently TikTok. Telegram, I'm not there, but I have somebody like you that is taking all my tweets and putting that on Telegram. That's what I'm asking you to do. Do the same, take all the tweets, all ideas, and promote that on these social medias that I don't have an official account there. I'm okay with that, it's important to do it. Perfect, no, don't ask, do it. Yes?
Hi. Two points. One, you were talking about CBC and Radio Canada. Okay, I have a little bit of insider information when I was working up in Ottawa. And I think it was a Conservative government at the time that there was an issue with, I'm sorry, I'm trying to remember the Prime Minister at the time. It was Mulroney.
Okay.
And Mulroney had a drinking problem. I met him in person, and he still won, and okay, he had a drinking problem. But when he hit Mila, he had a black eye that was in the paper, he went into detox in California. And what he did to his staff is he told his staff that staff members say, contact all the newspapers across Canada and make sure that you don't put that I'm going into detox anywhere, because if it comes out, there'll be things to say about this, okay? What they do is they threaten them with being audited. They're all bankrupt. Okay, CBC is bankrupt. Even General Motors in Ottawa, when it went under, was bankrupt. They're bankrupt. They don't pay their taxes. The other thing I wanted to say to you is this, I grew up liberal, and I consider liberal to be a little bit more left of conservative, but I now see myself as being conservative, and I'm seeing your shift here. What we have right now is we have a shift that's gone from liberal to extremist. The Liberal Party is extremist, and the Conservative Party in Canada is also slightly less extremist, but they're extremists, and they're not dealing with reality. So when I came here today, I said, well, listen, I'm looking for realism. Okay, I don't want to listen to politics anymore. So when this party is here, when you're talking, you talk about being like an offshoot of being conservative. Actually, I think they're an offshoot of being realistic.
Yes, you're right.
That's what Canada wants, is realism. So what I wanted to get at, the last thing I wanted to say about this is, I see is, if instead of talking about conservative values, and I know the conservative values are important because I have them, religion and everything else, although I'm agnostic Christian rather than a mainstream Christian, is that people are looking for realism and get rid of the conservative left-right paradigms, because they don't exist. It's all manipulation.
Yeah, you have a point about it. When I'm speaking about conservative, I must add conservative family values.
Yeah.
That's important. And I said that we are a real, classical liberal party. Classical liberal values are free market values and individual freedom. Yes. And actually, at the last election, I was in Halifax and I delivered a speech. And at the end of my speech, I said, we are the only real conservative party in Canada. And the lady said the same thing. After that, she came to me. She said, Maxime, I voted NDP all my life. And I was listening to you. I like everything that you said, except at the end when you said, we are the only real conservative party. Because you're not conservative. You are a common sense party, common sense policy. And I use that a lot. But now Poliev took it, and you're right. You're right. When I'm speaking, I must add conservative family values, free market values. That's why we have the liberals who voted for Jean Chrétien and Paul Martin, who balanced the budget. That's not the liberal of today. They are with us today. They are with us because we will balance the budget, do like Chrétien and Martin did. So you're right about that.
See, the only thing I want to...
And it's not, you're right about that also, it's not a question of right or policy, right or left. Yeah. It's right or wrong, it's about the truth versus lies, and that's
balanced.
Yeah.
Balanced, because so many people are extreme.
Yeah.
But I really think that we should, I'm looking for a party to vote for, I'm looking for people, I came here to see if we were real.
Yeah.
Okay, I consider myself a liberal. When I was younger, my parents were pro-liberal. I had a member of parliament in my parents' house. I spoke to Robert Strand's ferry. I don't know if you know him.
Yeah.
but liberalism has gone extreme.
Yes.
And it's realism now. I'm looking for who are real people, real values.
Yeah.
And let's just use a conservative thing because it's been tainted. That word's been tainted.
Yes.
It's like liberal has been tainted. I consider myself a liberal. No, I can't say that to anybody anymore. I'm a realist.
I'll take your advice. That's the second time I heard that from that lady in Halifax. I'll take your advice. When I'm speaking about conservative, I must add conservative families' values. And yes, not left and right, that doesn't exist anymore.
Okay, well.
I just wanted to sort of say, I've always said to people that I've known, and this is a comment, conservatives don't conserve anything. And the liberals are totally against liberal. They have 4 censorship bills. And the NDP, they're not democratic at all. And so realism, though, is a real thing. I've always said that realism is, and I agree, so maybe time for real change.
Yes. Go ahead.
I'd go one step further and say that PPC is the only real Canadian party.
Yeah.
The year 2024, it's almost over. But let's go back 2 years and we're all living in a very different time. What I'm wondering is that when you become Prime Minister, what steps will you take to ensure that people who implemented these ridiculous lockdown restrictions that stole over 2 years of all of our lives face justice for what they've done?
Yeah, absolutely right. We must have a royal parliamentary commission on that. We must bring all these civil servants, all these politicians who impose that, and we must have a debate. We must educate the population that what they did was wrong. We were right by saying that vaccine, I don't like to call it vaccine, that shot was not safe and effective. They told us that, but our fellow Canadians must know it. So we must open the books, and I'm very pleased that we had a national commission on that. What was the name? Citizen National Commission. The mainstream media didn't want to speak about that, but everything that they did was important because we must take all these testimonies and bringing that public in Parliament and having that debate. Yes. Yes.
It was my pleasure and honor to meet you during the Stockholm in Ottawa a couple of times.
Yeah.
At that time, you showed your courage.
Thank you.
And I really appreciate that you showing you're the right person. So my question here is, can you keep the real value of conservatives in the way that you're going to risk some of your reputation and some political gain in order to attack these people? So, for example, if you don't have access to the central media, big media, why don't you try to rent those big trucks and big displays and make the ad, some shocking ad that attacking both of these parties? What do you think? Can you risk them?
Yes, actually, right now the party, we have $1.5 million in the bank for the next election. And that's not a lot because during an election, the conservative, the liberals, they're spending $60 million together, about $30 million. So if we are able to spend $2 million at the next election, we'll use it effectively to do very effective ad, and that will only be on immigration. Because we know that the impact on immigration is everywhere. Healthcare, education, our school are full. We cannot assimilate them. We cannot integrate them in our society. Our infrastructure, we cannot have all these people. We need to build more infrastructure. The impact on our culture, the economy, our standard of living is going down. The economy is growing, but we have too many people. The GDP is growing, the economy is growing, we have too many people, but the GDP per capita is going down. So we are, individually, we are poor with that mass immigration. The impact of mass immigration is huge. It is all over our society. So we want our election to be based on immigration, and we'll do advertising, maybe billboards or things like that, depending on how money we can spend. But that's the goal just before the election. And we'll do our best, yes.
Can you bring up rents too, or put that in your conversation, because this massive has brought up rents everywhere.
Oh yeah, rents. Yeah, housing, rents.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But still involves immigration. That's very important. I agree with that. But people should, you also open people's mind and eyes Okay, it's total mismanagement as a whole, not only immigration. We're the richest country in the world, we have resources, we have unemployment, inflation, we can't see this. Our police should be driving Lamborghinis around just like in Dubai. And focusing on immigration, I understand it's important, but I believe it's much more than that. People elected wrong people, wrong guys to manage the country. Total mismanagement. Nothing's happened to Michigan. We're failing as a country. We have no national identity. There's no national pride. People are waving their flags. It's ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
It's little Canadian, you know what I mean? So
Yes.
I lived here for about 20 years, and I can see a clear decline altogether. All the reasons that I came from Canada, I can decline. Freedom of speech, huge. I came from Serbia. We had a leader that was labeled as dictator at that time. I'm from Belgrade, Serbia. We had 3 daily newspapers. They were totally independent. TV station, radio station, in the whole Canada. We don't have independent media. You mentioned ASBA, those are guerrilla media. That's not, you know what I mean? So.
You're right about that. When I'm saying that, we're going to spend the majority of our money on educating people about immigration and the impact on immigration on our society and the economy. You're right, but also there's other issues. That's why we want a smaller government. We have 16,000 civil servants working for Health Canada, the department. They don't manage any hospitals. So why? We must.
Mismanaged, massive bureaucracy. Money doesn't belong to anyone, to the window.
That's it. Yeah, so that's part of our radical decentralization policy and doing that. I will speak about it for sure, but I want to promote, and I'm looking at what is happening in Europe. These populist parties in Europe are growing because their subject is immigration. That's a big concern for them, and that's the same here. So we must be known for the party that is fighting against mass immigration, for a moratorium on immigration. Now they don't know us. A lot of people don't know us. I just want to know us. Immigration is important for you. That's the party. That's the only one. But yes, we'll speak about all the other issues also.
Lessening taxes, eliminating SAT.
We have all that on our website. Yeah.
I want to actually say something. I actually have something I think could help. Nowadays, everyone's on social media. Now, a lot of people say that's a bad thing, but I think it actually is a good thing. This one example, this YouTuber named Brandon Herrera, he's from Texas. He was just tired of these rhinos coming in, not respecting the rights of Texans and all. That's for example, when I think some sort of school shooting happened, the incumbent at the time was now against gun rights and all that, everything else got in Texas. So he just decided to run for Congress, and he was really social media focused, for example on Twitter or X, whatever. There's this function called community notes. It makes it easier for you to debunk false hopes, for example. And the incumbent, Tony Gonzalez, every single tweet that he had that was against Brandon Herrera was completely community notes. So everyone who was seeing it online could see, hey, what this guy's saying about this other guy's false, for example. And while Brandon didn't win, he actually lost by just a few 100 votes. And Gonzalez, I believe the funding he received for his campaign was just $10 million. He thought he completely smoked this guy, but he nearly lost. Yeah. Just because Brandon used social media to his advantage. So I think it's really important for the PPC to do that.
Yes, you're right. You're right. We are in 2024, and that's great. We need to use social media, and I'm doing that. And we know it's the most important media for us to communicate. What I will do a little bit more on social media is videos. I don't do a lot of videos, and so I will do that more. My goal is to do 4 or 5 new videos every week, put that on TikTok. But I won't do a video dancing. I will do a video speaking about ideas. And so it's my commitment to you. I'll be more present on social media with videos, and short videos, long videos. So yeah.
Today, Facebook, this speech, 366 plays, 10 shares, 14 comments. So there's a lot more people here than what you're looking at right now.
Yeah. Great, thank you.
So
one of the things I noticed during COVID, and this is both a Conservative Party thing, because I think it really started to congeal under the last term of the Conservative Trudeau. But anyway, what happened during COVID is you can boil everything down to one thing, which is dangerous, and that is we had no whistleblowers. We shot our whistleblowers. They were threatened with no more pension, you're getting fired, everything like that. And I think part of it is because if you're an employee of the government of Canada, you have to go through the Prime Minister's office in order to do an interview. And employees of Canada are now concerned that the Prime Minister's office, right, that's their boss, when they actually should be working for us, right, the people who pay their bills. So would you pledge that, as a Prime Minister, or would you kind of deregulate and maybe even promote whistleblowers?
Oh yes, absolutely.
We got rid of them.
Absolutely. They need to have more. Yeah, they need to have more protections. Actually, we have a legislation in Canada concerning them, but there's no teeth. There's nothing there. So we need to give them more protections. It's important in a democracy. And if we don't have that, we are not really living in a democracy.
We don't have any real, and I just want to follow on, we don't really have any real science, which is when you got into COVID and you got into how it spread, if they even know how it spreads, because they don't, okay? And there's even questions from doctors who are written doctors, who are real doctors who read the books, saying that viruses don't spread in your body. So there's a real science missing.
Yes.
And yet we get this science of Trudeau, and you got the same global warming science of Trudeau.
Yeah, that's because
based on science.
Yeah, that's because of the censorship. Absolutely, you're right. Maybe I'll take the last question and.
Sir, have you been elected? Will you commit to electoral reform?
To what?
Electoral reform.
Yes, that's what I believe. It will be. We will need to have a majority government to do that because I know that the establishment, the Liberals and the Conservatives are against that. But yes, we want electoral reform. We want to add more proportionality in our electoral system. I'm not asking if I have 5% of the vote to have 5% of the members of parliament, but we must add proportionality in our electoral system. Yes, you're right about it. Maybe the real last one?
My first wife died of cancer, and my present wife was diagnosed with cancer just recently, and I'm just wondering what the wait time that she had to do. Like, waiting times is just bureaucracy, it's not medicine, okay? So what are you going to do about our medical system?
My first election in 2006, I don't know if you remember that, Harper had 5 priorities. And people were saying in 2006, 2007, they were very surprised. Harper did almost what he said that he would do, except one. One of his policy, his platform was to solve waiting time for surgeries. And he wasn't able to deliver because healthcare is under the provincial jurisdiction. So what we can do as a federal government, the federal government is giving $48 billion to provinces for healthcare. They must be responsible. We must not give them that money. We must do better. The GST in Canada, the federal government received about $48 billion from the GST. We need to give them that tax. The GST must become a provincial tax. So your provincial government will be able to have the money for health care. They will be able to tax their person and using that. And if they don't want to tax because they won't be able to go back to the federal government, I don't want to manage that. I'm not an expert. So because of that, that will force them, yes.
My wife is ill, okay?
Yeah.
I don't want, I have a friend that drives people to the U.S. border.
Yes.
And gets the test.
Yeah.
Like, that's his full-time business.
Yes.
Just driving people to Buffalo to get the test.
Yeah.
Because we're short of specialists.
Yes.
Like, this is not surgery, it's just specialists.
Yes, it's the same.
So when are you going to bring private care, at least an option, so that I can do that?
Yeah, actually, you're right about it. I cannot promise you that we'll solve the problem, but what we can do at the federal level, it's very difficult to have private delivery in healthcare. In Quebec, it's easier, you have more private clinics. So my commitment to you is to do what I said about the taxes, giving the money to the provinces, but also the second part is to be sure to change the Healthcare Act in Canada and being sure that it won't be illegal to have private delivery of healthcare, like in other countries in Europe. Yes, that's part of our platform. You can go on our website, read our platform, peoplespartyofcanada.ca, click on healthcare, and all that is in detail. 2, reform, giving them money and being sure that we have more private delivery. Yes. So thank you very much, everybody. It's a little bit late. Stay strong and free and fight for what you believe. You can count on our candidates and the People's Party to help you and do the job for you and for our country. Thank you. Thank you.
I would encourage everyone to stick around, have a few beers with Steve and Lisa. We have Wasay still here and Randy's walking around. You can ask our candidates questions. Tonight at 7 p.m. at the St. Clements Community Center, we have Max will be there and the Shania Twain Experience and our candidate for Kitchener-Conestoga, Kevin Dupuy. You can come up and talk to me for more information. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, my fellow Canadians. We can do this. Cheers.